Welcome to the first session of our video series, The Automation Journey Across the Nintex Platform. I am Nazir, and together with Mark, we are excited to present and discuss the Nintex Process Manager, a vital component of our automation toolkit. Join us as we explore its capabilities and explain how can it help you to optimize your business processes. So let us dive in and discover the potential of automation within the Nintex platform. The Nintex Platform brings together a range of powerful solutions to streamline your operations and help you manage and automate your business processes. At its core, the Nintex Process Manager empowers you to map, document, and efficiently manage your processes. As for Automate section, Nintex offers both on-premise and cloud solution for workflow automation, document generation, and much more. Within Nintex RPA, you can automate complex rule-based tasks, freeing your team to focus on more valuable work. At the end, the Nintex analytic tools offer deep insight to your processes, enabling you to make data-driven decisions, optimize your operations, and continuously improve your business performance. If we look at the process lifecycle in terms of automation, we see that we start with gathering and identifying our processes. Then we can document and manage those processes and find some candidates for automation. And through monitoring and learning, we can optimize this cycle. So identifying and understanding our processes is crucial for digital transformation because it serves as a foundation upon which efficient automation and optimization can be built. Process management is therefore essential because it allows organizations to gain a deep understanding of their existing workflows, identifying bottlenecks, inefficiencies, and areas of improvement. So by comprehensively mapping out processes, we can streamline operations and make informed decisions about where and how to apply automation technologies. Mark, what do you think about that? How important do you see the process management in this whole automation journey?
Well, to be honest, it's one of the key components of the automation journey. If we automate a process before it's been documented, analyzed, and agreed upon by all relevant stakeholders, we may be automating an ineffective and inefficient process, and as a result, we arrive at an undesirable outcome faster. So all we're doing is speeding up the process to get to an undesirable outcome. And that's not exactly what automation is there to do.
Thank you, Mark. It seems that we are aligned with the importance of the process manager. Can you please show us Nintex Process Manager?
Sure. Well, let's just start off by saying what Nintex Process Manager is. Manager is an essential online process platform that brings together all the information that is required for an individual to be able to understand what it is that they need to do on a daily basis. So whether that be the process map, whether that be the procedure, or any documents or videos that help them to understand the tasks that they need to execute, Nintex Process Manager brings that all together into a centralized location for them to be able to access that information. So what you can see in front of you here is the landing page. And we've tried to design this in a way that makes it easy for people to consume, make it similar to stuff that we're used to seeing on a daily basis, the things like our social media platforms that we interact with, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, where we're able to search for content that we're interested in. We're able to see content that we've looked at before. We're able to also look at processes in the context of processes that I have a role assigned to me that gets executed in that process, or processes that I own and am accountable for, to make sure that they are actually kept up to date. And then also in the center here, you can see a number of dashboard items that are telling me that there's quite a few things that I need to focus on. There's 28 process changes I haven't looked at. There are risk and sign-off changes. People have provided feedback on the processes that I own. So everything's at your fingertips, and you can literally just delve into whatever you need to see at that point in time. I can also search across the process library. So if I was looking for an invoice or a process related to invoices, it would then go and search the repository, find all the references to invoice, whether that be an attachment to a process or a process itself, and I can then navigate to that process quite quickly and effectively without me needing to spend hours looking for information. And when we document our processes, obviously we need to categorize these in a certain way. And what we need to do is put in some form of process classification framework, whether that be a traditional siloed approach where we look at processes according to the different departments within our organization, or potentially something like an APQC framework where it's a process classification framework first for specific industries, and it then looks at your operational processes and your supporting processes, which should come up on screen shortly. So as an example here, operating processes being the processes that you execute on a daily basis that make you money or provide products and services to your customers, and the supporting processes being anything that you do to keep the lights on. So this would be things like finance, HR, IT, anything that helps you run your organization on a day-to-day basis. So what you need to do in terms of automation is, firstly, let's decide on what does the structure look like within our organization. What are the processes that we're going to prioritize within the structure? Because as you can see here, just by these groups, there's quite a few processes that you need to document throughout your documentation and automation journey. So you might want to say, well, we're struggling under the marketing and selling of products area. Let's prioritize those processes. And you can put the structure in place and then start building your processes according to that prioritization. I just want to pause there for a second to talk about the ways of documenting processes within our platform. We do have support for both process models. So this is where we can document processes as BPMN compliant processes themselves. I'll just show you an example of that. If I look at my procure-to-pay process here, this is the view of a typical BPMN diagram that depicts what the activities are within this process and which systems are being employed to execute these tasks. And then we have the other way of documenting processes where we capture our procedures and the product itself actually draws that map for us. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. In keeping with the theme of procure-to-pay, I'll just show you this procure-to-pay process here. Essentially, you'll see a very similar process diagram to what we saw before. Obviously, it doesn't have as many symbols and decision diamonds and things like that. It's a lot simpler to understand and to consume. It's written in plain English with verb-noun type construction of the activity. So create a purchase order request as an example. And we have the swim lanes, very similar to what we saw before, showing who needs to execute this. So what roles are assigned to this activity and who would be responsible for executing it. If I click on any of these items, I then get to see the next level of detail. So how do I create a purchase order request? And I can see the tasks underneath that and the systems that have been assigned to this process. So essentially what we're doing is we're documenting our processes, we're capturing all the information about what needs to be done and by whom, and we're assigning systems to those processes. As we can see here, as I hover over, I can see exactly which system is used at which point in process. But I'm also able to, through the use of lean tags, capture opportunities where I feel like I can use something like workflow or RPA. So I can say, these are the three activities where if we used a workflow solution, we can then automate this and make it easier for people to capture information once, and the workflow then takes care of the rest of that automation for me. I don't need to know where to send this information. The task will be created in a work list for someone to work on rather than it being an email that someone has to pick up. So we are starting to build those efficiencies into the process and automating the correct stuff when we need to. As you can see here as well, we have RPA. So here, if we could automate this, as you said, using an RPA bot, we can then validate things without human intervention, thus freeing up time for those people to execute more valuable tasks during their day. We can also, as you can see here, we've got this little warning triangle that then depicts risks and things that are associated to this task as well. I can click on that to see what it is. Here, for instance, we could have a loss due to unreconciled payments being made. And if we then do a three-way match and we use RPA to do that for us, we then reduce the risk of that then happening. So once we've documented our processes, we'd obviously send that through an approval workflow. We'd get buy-in from all of our stakeholders. I'm just going to show you some of the other information that we capture inside of Process Manager. So this is the procedural view. We would capture our processes in this way, and it will draw that map for us automatically. We don't have to sit and draw lines and boxes and hope that they're ordered in the correct way and depict the process correctly. That's done by the product for you. And then we also have information towards the bottom here where we understand when this process is being triggered and by whom. And we know what we're expecting as an outcome. And obviously we have the performance targets captured so that when we automate, we can then measure to see that we're meeting those targets at that point in time. We also capture cost information, which I'm going to glance over for now. I just wanted to get down to the bottom here where we see the 𝗍𝗂𝗁 chart. So the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. This is where if we triggered an approval workflow, it would go through this 𝗍𝗂𝗁 chart. People that need to understand that the process has changed would be under the responsible area. The people that are accountable for it would need to then approve this and request that things get changed if they're not correct. We'd also consult additional stakeholders that we assign to this process, and we'd inform any other stakeholders like system stakeholders as well that something may have changed to a process that they're responsible for. So once we've then garnered this approval and we've looked at things like Lean, Six Sigma, total quality management, any of those opportunities for improvement, we can then say, okay, we've mapped out our processes, we've identified places that we can improve them, we've got the approval that, yes, we've identified the areas that we need to improve. We can then run reports across our process models. I'll just show you an example here. So, for instance, if we've said that we want to automate processes, we can use our lean map to look at specifically where we've identified that we want to potentially use workflow to automate. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Here you'll see it's brought back everywhere that I've used one of those lean tags, but I want to use workflow specifically. And I can say that I want to look at potentially unpublished processes as well. If I refresh that, I'm going to get a list of all the processes in my environment that I've said I want to apply workflow. The same could happen for RPA or any of the others. But here you could see the procure to pay process comes up, a process contract variation request comes up. And if we had 10 processes here, we could then start to prioritize this list and say which of these processes is going to have the most business benefit and the best business value. So it's pointless us starting with a process that gets executed once a year and doesn't actually provide much in terms of business value. We would look at these and say, procure to pay is quite an important process. We could get to the point where we optimize this process through automation, and that would be the place that we'd like to start. So I think that, in a nutshell, gives you an idea of the journey. It's let's identify how we want to classify our processes, let's document them, let's then look at areas of improvement and get that support and approval for what we're going to ultimately push out to our end users. And then let's use those tags that we've associated to the process to then start prioritizing work in terms of how we automate our processes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the overview. It was really insightful. What we gather from this overview of Nintex Process Manager is not only we can identify the whole process, but within the process also we can say that this activity specifically can be automated with workflow or with RPA. So Maybe in the next session, we will take the same process, procure to pay, and go to some of those activities that we just highlighted. And we will show how we can use a workflow to automate, or then how we can use an RPA to automate different activities in the process. Thank you for watching this video. Follow us for the next video where we will show you how we can automate different activities within the process that we just demoed today with procure to pay, how we can use workflow automation and RPA to automate some activities within this process.